Greetings, it's Johnny Boy here. Reverend John O'Toole to some, Johnny Boy to some, Johnny to some, John to some. Hey you, what the heck are you doing to some? I'm mostly a one-person filmmaker, so everything that I do is I'm the editor and the producer and the director and the gaffer and all those things that you see in the credits of a movie. I'm generally the one-person one. So I shot this great video a week or so ago of my second episode of Cooking with John, episode 2, and I forgot to turn on my main mic. Now I have another mic that runs off another camera, but it's not a good quality mic, and of course it doesn't sound very good. So my dilemma is, do I reshoot the whole show or do I start from the beginning and put it all together and see if I can make it work, which is another skill of a filmmaker. So this particular one has to do with my main dish today is Johnny's version of American chop suey. Now, American chop suey generally, and I guess it's also called goulash. I was reminded that recently, that it's macaroni, overly cooked, and tomato sauce, overly salted, and hamburger, also overly salted. Probably extra fat, like 100% fat, not that this our 90% stuff we have, and maybe some herbs and stuff thrown in there. And yeah, that's what it is. Real cheap to make, real easy to make, and you can feed the masses with it. So I had it when I was in elementary school, and ever since then it seems to show up in my food plan somewhere until now, because now I'm on a low potassium, low sodium diet, which means the tomato sauce is off the table. Also, eating a lot of pasta tends to cause me to retain fluids because there's a lot of fluid in pasta, which is why people like are doing running marathons. They often will pack up on carbs that include pasta because there's a lot of water in it, and the muscles in the body will draw on that water in the system. But people that have issues with something like congestive heart failure or something like that, or breathing and a lot of other different things, retaining water in the body is not as healthy as it might seem. So my version of American chop suey is to use vegetables and a healthy ground beef. I use a range feed organic beef that is far healthier than what I used to buy at the grocery store. And also I'm using a stir fry. Well, it's frozen vegetables, so that's not as good as the fresh stuff, but it works for me. And this is about eating foods that make it easy. You can go to the store and get all these ingredients and spend a while chopping them all up and stuff, which is great. I'm not going to knock it. But for a quick and dirty meal, some healthy frozen vegetables are not a bad idea. So I have a stir-fry mix that we get at the local grocery store. And so it's their brand name on the package and not Bird's Eye, but it's probably still made by Bird's Eye, and it's just a little less. And it's a really nice mix. It's got some water chestnuts and some pea pods and some carrots and some cauliflower and some broccoli and did I say water chestnuts? And some onions, I think, and green beans. So it's a nice little mix. Doesn't have corn as a filler. It's probably a healthier mix than the standard mixed vegetables, so it's still not a bad thing to have as mixed vegetables, as long as they're not from a can. One of the other things that I'm going to show you today is I'm filling my jars. So I have jars like this that have my fire cider jars, but these are also, this jar has my elderberry syrup, and I take a slurp of elderberry syrup every day. A slurp. It's not a shot glass, it's a slurp. And this jar has really worked well. The funnel fits into it, and yeah. So, and then the other thing is I get my fire cider by the half gallon. You can get it by the gallon too, but this fits in the refrigerator door really well. And this is the fire cider. It's the African bronze honey, which has an interesting more depth to the wildflower, but it doesn't really matter. To tell you the truth, you can barely tell the difference. And then they have a non-honey version. So I have my 2 jars that I have, which is remarkably the same looking as the other jar, except it doesn't have elderberry all written on the label. This is my elderberry syrup, and at some point I'm going to do a video on making elderberry syrup. Now my elderberry syrup is made from elderberries, black elderberries, that I buy online or dried by the pound. And so I also mix in rose hips, cloves, cinnamon, and rose hips, cloves, cinnamon, and star of anise. I put all that into the pot, big pot of water, and I let it simmer. I don't boil it, I simmer it. And it might simmer it and it'll go down about halfway, then I add more water and simmer it some more. You can't eat elderberries fresh, you have to cook them. I think they're poisonous unless you cook them. Now how does the Native Americans figure this out, that you had to cook them in order to make a syrup that would help people with colds and flus? And you think of things going on today, and people aren't advocating. They say, wear a mask, pretend I'm the one Santa Claus video that you've seen. Wear a mask, wash your hands, and social distance. That's all they tell you. And you won't get the virus. That's what they tell you. Well, they don't tell you improve your health system, improve your immune system. Make sure you're getting all the vitamins and nutrients every day that you need. You have to be careful. You can't overdose on supplements, because you can overdose on supplements. You got to talk to a doctor somewhere other than that guy that keeps lying to you on national news. Just saying. So I do make my own. You can buy this in a lot of different places. You can buy your own syrup and you don't have to make it. Or it probably cost me, well now, when I bought the elderberries before, I think I got them for $10 a pound. But now that there's a virus, they've popped up to $25 a pound. And it's still worth it, because you could make yourself maybe 12 quarts of elderberry syrup. Then you can take the gook that's left over that you strain out, dry it on like a cookie sheet or something, and then put it in a bag and use it to make tea with it. And you'd have to use one of those little balls, or make little cheesecloth balls, or just strain it when you make your tea. But between the two, you got something that's going to last you a year with just one bag. And then the other ingredients you probably already have on your shelf. You may not have the rose hips, though. The rose hips give you the vitamin C, although it could be argued that boiling them takes out the vitamin C. I'm not sure. I'm not a food scientist. But I'm just telling you, a slurp a day. It may not keep you from getting sick, but it'll certainly build up your immune system to help you fight it off when you do get it. So, I make it in quarts and then I transfer it over into my other jar. I keep these in the refrigerator. I suppose you could go through the canning process, but I just keep them in the refrigerator. And then I do, they're 16-ounce jars. I don't know if it probably ends up being like 15 ounces. Look at that. Look at that heaven. Useful to have a jar that's not that's translucent, so you can at least see through it. So I didn't have my slurp today because my jar ran out, so. The other ingredient is honey, organic honey. Organic honey. And what you do is after you've finished cooling it down, and you cool it down. You know, someday I'll do a video on it and show you the whole process. But you boil it. I like to boil it for a couple of days. They say the things to do it for a couple hours or an hour or something. The longer you do it, the more of the stuff gets out of the other ingredients. Simmer it down. I also smell wonderful while you're doing this. And then what you do is you strain out, you know, all the goop. So you want some kind of a sieve, maybe some cheesecloth. You can put it into the cheesecloth and strain it out. So you're going to need another container or pot to do this in. And then once you have that mix, you're going to add honey. Like, you know, how much honey you add is just going to make it sweeter and thicker. Organic honey that's real organic honey, not the fake Chinese Oriental stuff made from high fructose corn syrup that you might see in little bears in the supermarket. Very particular about where you get your honey, but just be careful because a lot of places they supplement the honey with sugar to and say it's organic because it's organic sugar, and they mix it with organic honey, and now you have a sugar honey mix. So I put in about, I don't know, maybe a couple of pounds. They actually consider it pounds because of its thickness, but you know. You don't need a lot. It just depends on your sweet tooth. You might want a lot if you like sweet things. But I'm a sweet thing. If you like me, you may not want a lot of honey because I'm already sweet enough. So that is the elderberry. And then next is our fire cider. And I'm going to fill up. I keep this on my desk. So in the morning when I'm doing my morning medications, I am also taking the all this stuff. And the fire cider I splash into my water every so often to just flavor my water a little bit. You could buy those things in the packets that you can put in your water bottle. It has a bunch of crystallized things that you can't quite identify, or you can get yourself some fire cider, add that to your water bottle, or several water bottles, and take them with you to work. Certainly would make water from the water fountain taste a whole lot better with a dash of water cider in it. You might even could drink water out of the tap. Okay, so our next project is, now you know I talk about on my video that I shot without the microphone, I made up a fresh batch of my Johnny's Special Mix. One of my daughters wants my special recipe. She wants me to give her my special recipe. And just like bush beans, it's the secret family recipe that I only share with 1,000 people that are watching my YouTube channels and my community television stations, which she doesn't watch. So she doesn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a mason jar, quart size, with a plastic cap, which these things are great, by the way. That's why you don't have to use the lid and bands. And I'm going to make her up her own special mix for herself as a Christmas present. So mum's the word, although this won't go on before Christmas, so I guess we're clear. And her birthday's just passed, so we're clear on that too. Okay, so we're going to make up a batch of Johnny's Mix. So I'm going to take the mason jar, I'm going to put it on my other camera. Okay, I have a funnel, a ball standard funnel, which also has you can also get them made by other people, but the ball ones fit the jars really well. And if you're nostalgic, you like to use some of the things that have been being used for 1 billion years. Although I don't know what they did before plastic. Well, they were probably tin. So we're going to take some Italian seasoning, which is I couldn't get the McCormick, so I'm using a Castle, which has a really nice aroma. So put some of that in there. There we go. So I would say about 1/4 of a mason jar, which is a quart size. Now you can do whatever you wish if you're going to use this recipe. And then we're going to put in some basil. In fact, I should transfer this into one of my own mason jars. Would I do something that's my own advice? So we're going to do some onions, minced onions, and of course they're dried. Some things that you cook with, it doesn't have enough time for them to hydrate. Like if you're putting them on steak, which I often put it on steak type things, chicken, they don't reconstitute fast enough. To make a difference. They usually end up in the pan. Next is the granulated garlic. Non-GMO, isn't that great? So, you know, try to put enough in there. Another one is turmeric. This is what I ordered as a replacement to that one. This is Anthony's. I don't know if it's any good or not, but I used Anthony's. Oh no, I haven't used that yet. Oh, and ginger. Ginger is another ingredient for the elderberry. It's best to use fresh ginger if you remember to get it. I have some in the freezer, but I forgot it was there. It was kind of, what's this fossil in the refrigerator? And I realized it's turmeric. But you can use dried, you know, powder, but the most effective ingredient is the fresh root. If I have to put that on my grocery list. Turmeric is really good for your joints and muscles. It helps with muscle pain and joint pain. But it needs to have some cinnamon and black pepper. It doesn't need the cinnamon, but I think it goes better. Black pepper activates the turmeric for the joint pain. I don't know why. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a guy with a frying pan. So we also have the black pepper. So I actually have a Home Depot bucket. It has a gamma lid, which is a screw top lid that you can put on it. So instead of putting a lid on it that's permanently locked, you put these gamma lids on it. And I don't, they call them gamma. I don't. Must be something to do with back when we had to worry about fallout shelters, and you had screw top lids. And I put all my ingredients in the bucket for my elderberry. So the black pepper, showed you the black pepper, right? Goes in here also. And the other thing I want to put in here is these two lids, they don't go together. Here's the right one. I have some dill seed. Now I don't know, I know I bought the dill seed because I wanted to make some no salt pickles. But they have a nice flavor to it and they seem to go really well in my mix. I don't know why, but they do. And if you're doing something like Johnny's goulash or Johnny's chop suey, then it has time to meld in with everything. Yeah, that's about all I put in. I have all the jars already on my counter for making it. I could actually take them off the counter and put them up on the rack if I was so inclined. See how easy it is to have these things hanging up over your head? It's so easy because if you're looking for something, they're up there. You don't have to go fish through a jar or hunt through drawers. So look at that, huh? Isn't that the prettiest thing you ever saw in your life? You put your top on there. Truthfully, my daughter is a wonderful person. If you could look back at some of my old some of my old microgreen video commercials, we did a video of cooking with microgreens, and she was a darling thing on it. I'm going to take some of mine and give it to her because it'll fill up that jar a little more, and I can always make mine. But this is probably going to last her quite a long time. So I had a microgreen video when I did a series, I think. And so it's either in the beginning or in the end where we made a bunch of things. It's very primitive because I wasn't so sophisticated then with everything on quality mics and quality lighting. So, but this is what you do when you become a filmmaker. So until next time, happy, 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 happy. Do 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 do. I hope you enjoyed my little show.